What do sports, games, and good YouTube videos have in common? Collaboration. So in the spirit of collaboration, me and fellow game dev YouTuber Aaron Code decided to band together and do the unthinkable, work on each other's indie games. Here on YouTube, you may find several channels producing devlogs for their indie games. Whether it be a one-person effort or even a small team, each channel solely focused on developing their own game. To flip things on its head, we decided to, I believe, do it first, and rather than add yet another feature to one of our own games, we put our beloved game projects in each other's hands. We originally thought of adding new game mechanics and features, which, don't get me wrong, sounds pretty interesting, but we decided that might be just a bit too much and dialed things back to adding just a new enemy to each other's game. We did want to push the envelope just a bit more though, so to make things even more interesting, we decided to keep the enemies a secret and only reveal them when it was time to implement them. So in short, we first had to 1. Design and create a brand new enemy for the other's game. 2. Create a small brief of what the enemy should do. 3. Send each other our enemies. And lastly, implement whatever the person sent you. As a little bonus at the end, we also decided that we should play one another's game and try to defeat the very enemy that we created. With the rules of the challenge out of the way, it's about time I hand the video over to Aaron, where he can introduce himself and show what he created. Don't forget, I had no idea what he was doing until after he sent me the files. So take it away, Aaron.
Hi, my name is Aaron, also known as Aaron Code. I know, very creative. Today, I'm going to be using Piskel to create an enemy for Andrew's indie game. Now, I've spoken to Andrew before to ask him what kind of enemy he was after, and he kind of said, go wild. Andrew's already added a bunch of enemies for his game, and so I want to create something that's a little bit unique, that's a little bit new, and so I've settled on creating a ghost character. Andrew was also kind enough to send me the sprite for his main character so that I could use that as some sort of template and reference for my character. So I started off by trying to replicate the body shape of that character. And so I'm going to start off with creating the actual ghost in its idle state, and then I want to create the attack sprite of the ghost so that he has a different attack animation. And on top of that, I also want to create the projectile. With the main outline done, I could finally color it in and get to creating the details. I ended up trying a bunch of stuff to get the face to look right, but I'm actually quite happy with the end result. I think it looks pretty ghostly, but not too terrifying as well. And so with that, I could finally animate the character itself. Now, his sprites, his characters aren't actually animated in terms of they're not flipping images, but I wanted to include it just as an extra detail. And so with a little bit of modifications to the body, I created the attack sprite. And I have to say the attack sprite is probably my favorite sprite, but with the character drawn, it was time to add some shading to give it some depth. Now I want to preface by saying I'm not a 2D artist, and any art I draw has been very, very simple. And so this is probably the most complicated character I've done. But Piskel has its lightening and darkening tools. So I used that paintbrush to add some shading around the edges of the character to make the head look a bit round, to add some depth under his eyes and around his face, a little bit on his body as well. And so I am actually quite happy with how the lighting or the shading turned out. But that just about does it for the character, and it's time to now move on to the projectile. My idea behind the ghost is that it's going to shoot souls at the player, and it's also going to have the ability to duplicate itself, kind of like Mysterio in like Spider-Man. Now I struggled with the face for this as well. It was a little bit tough to fit it into a smaller scale, but I think I actually got it looking pretty good in the end. And so after adding some shading to the projectile as well, I think that just about does it for the character. Just before I go, if you haven't heard of me, my name is Aaron. I'm a software developer, and on my own channel, I make tutorials, devlogs, and remake popular games. And I'm also in the process of developing my dream game called Terry. So if any of that interests you, consider checking out my channel as well. And now let's see what Andrew thinks of the ghost. So I'm going to zip that up and send it to him and cross my fingers that he likes it.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Oh wow, yeah, that's completely unexpected. I didn't really tell you what to do. So seeing something like that, that's really neat. Now that Aaron has revealed his ghostly enemy, it's time to jump straight into Unity and implement it. So to get started, because Aaron was so kind to include a small brief alongside the enemy, it gave me a very clear roadmap of what needed to be done. The first thing I did to get this ghost in the game was to use an older enemy as a base and then just fill out the information for the ghost. Making new enemies can generally be a stress point for the majority of projects. That's why when designing them, I made sure this process was somewhat streamlined, and in theory, it's as easy as just changing some values and replacing the visuals. Keeping that in mind, I haven't created a new enemy in, 2 years. So trust me when I say I was pleasantly surprised. It actually went smoothly. With the basic ghost enemy now in the game, I moved on to the harder part, custom attack patterns. So every enemy up till now just moves a certain distance to the player, then shoots an array of projectiles. It can look like this, or even this. Keeping that in mind, Aaron was pretty savage in his briefing, and instead wants the ghost to spawn weaker clones of itself around the player and have those clones shoot the projectiles. Although it's a lot more work, it's really a cool idea, and since this video is in the spirit of collaboration, I couldn't possibly say no. So to get this all to work, I started rewriting parts of the enemy AI, and I came up with this.
If it's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call?
Although the ghost clones don't shoot just yet, honestly I couldn't be happier with the result. This little guy looks awesome in the game, and it made sifting through years worth of old code to implement Aaron's suggestion completely worth it. So now that we have the base features working, let's make the clones shoot. Before we start, it's worth noting that Aaron also included a ghost-themed projectile with his sprites, which, by the way, looks awesome. So just like we did with the enemy, I dragged in an old projectile as a base, and it was as simple as filling in some numbers and replacing the visuals to match our ghostly soul projectile. Finally, with some minor revisions to the code from earlier, the ghost now shoots clones of himself, which take aim and shoot at the player. You can kill the clones pretty easily, but the main body takes a few hits to defeat. And with that, the ghost enemy is fully functional. I just have to add it to the wave spawner, and since they are pretty difficult to defeat, they should cost a decent amount to spawn. That's it, everything is now done, and the game is ready to be built and sent off to Aaron. Let's see what he thinks when he has to face the very enemy he created. Oh, you have a ghost.
Oh, I saw the ghost in the corner of my eye. Okay. I'm just gonna let it. Okay, never mind.
There was 2 of them.
I just want to see what it did, but then there's 2 ghosts, so. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't have the facilities for this one. My idea to add these ghosts was horrendous. Like, this is ridiculous.
So, after playtesting, needless to say, both me and Aaron came to the agreement that the ghosts still need a little bit of balancing. But in the end, I love how this ghost enemy turned out. And if you want to see what enemy I added to Aaron's game, make sure to check out the video over on his channel. A link will be in the description. But that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
I know what happens next.